My first summer in the Sierra by John Muir. July 20th. Fine, calm morning. Air tense and clear. Not the slightest breeze astir. Everything shining. The rocks with wet crystals. The plants with dew, each receiving its portion of irised dewdrops. And sunshine, like living creatures, getting their breakfast, their dew manna coming down from the starry sky like swarms of smaller stars. How wondrous fine are the particles in showers of dew, thousands required for a single drop, growing in the dark as silently as the grass. What pains are taken to keep this wilderness in health. Showers of snow, showers of rain, showers of dew, floods of light, floods of invisible vapor, clouds, winds, all sorts of weather, interaction of plant on plant, animal on animal, etc., beyond thought. How fine nature's methods, how deeply with beauty is beauty overlaid. The ground covered with crystals, the crystals with mosses and lichens, and low-spreading grasses and flowers, these with larger plants, leaf over leaf, with ever-changing color and form. The broad palms of the firs outspread over these, the azure dome over all like a bellflower, and star above star. Yonder stands the South Dome, its crown high above our camp, though its base is 4,000 feet below us, a most noble rock. It seems full of thought, clothed with living light, no sense of dead stone about it, all spiritualized, neither heavy-looking nor light, steadfast in serene strength like a god. Our shepherd is a queer character and hard to place in this wilderness. His bed is a hollow made in red dry rot, punky dust beside a log, which forms a portion of the south wall of the corral. Here he lies with his wonderful, everlasting clothing on, wrapped in a red blanket, breathing not only the dust of the decayed wood, but also that of the corral, as if determined to take ammoniacal snuff all night after chewing tobacco all day. Following the sheep, he carries a heavy six-shooter swung from his belt on one side and his luncheon on the other. The ancient cloth in which the meat, fresh from the frying pan, is tied serves as a filter through which the clear fat and gravy juices drip down on his right hip and leg in clustering stalactites. This oleaginous formation is soon broken up, however, and diffused and rubbed evenly into his scanty apparel by sitting down, rolling over, crossing his legs while resting on logs, etc., making shirt and trousers watertight and shiny. His trousers, in particular, have become so adhesive with the mixed fat and resin that pine needles, thin flakes and fibers of bark, hair, mica scales, and minute grains of quartz, hornblende, etc., feathers, seed wings, moth and butterfly wings, legs and antennae of innumerable insects, or even whole insects, such as the small beetles, moths, and mosquitoes, with flower petals, pollen dust, and indeed bits of all plants, animals, and minerals of the region adhere to them and are safely embedded, so that, though far from being a naturalist, he collects fragmentary specimens of everything and becomes richer than he knows. His specimens are kept passably fresh, too, by the purity of the air and the resiny bituminous beds into which they are pressed. Man is a microcosm, at least our shepherd is, or rather his trousers. These precious overalls are never taken off, and nobody knows how old they are, though one may guess by their thickness and concentric structure. Instead of wearing thin, they wear thick, and in their stratification have no small geological significance. Besides herding the sheep, Billy is the butcher, while I have agreed to wash the few iron and tin utensils and make the bread. Then, these small duties done, by the time the sun is fairly above the mountain tops, I am beyond the flock, free to rove and revel in the wilderness all the big immortal days. Sketching on the North Dome. It commands views of nearly all the valley, besides a few of the high mountains. I would fain draw everything in sight, rock, tree, and leaf. But little can I do beyond mere outlines, marks with meanings like words, readable only to myself. Yet I sharpen my pencils and work on as if others might possibly be benefited. Whether these picture sheets are to vanish like fallen leaves or go to friends like letters matters not much, for little can they tell to those who have not themselves seen similar wildness, and like a language have learned it. No pain here, no dull empty hours, no fear of the past, no fear of the future. These blessed mountains are so compactly filled with God's beauty. No petty personal hope or experience has room to be. Drinking this champagne water is pure pleasure. So is breathing the living air, and every movement of limbs is pleasure, while the whole body seems to feel beauty when exposed to it, as it feels like the campfire or sunshine, entering not by the eyes alone, but equally through all one's flesh, like radiant heat, making a passionate, ecstatic pleasure glow, not explainable. One's body then seems homogeneous throughout, sound as a crystal. Perched like a fly on this Yosemite dome, I gaze and sketch and bask, oftentimes settling down into dumb admiration without definite hope of ever learning much, yet with the longing, unresting effort that lies at the door of hope, humbly prostrate before the vast display of God's power, and eager to offer self-denial and remuneration with eternal toil to learn any lesson in the divine manuscript. It is easier to feel than to realize, or in any way explain Yosemite grandeur. The magnitudes of the rocks and trees and streams are so delicately harmonized. They are mostly hidden. Sheer precipices 3,000 feet high are fringed with tall trees growing close like grass on the brows of a lowland hill, and extending along the feet of these precipices a ribbon of meadow a mile wide and 7 or 8 long, that seems like a strip of a farmer might mow in less than a day. Waterfalls 500 to 1 or 2,000 feet high are so subordinated to the mighty cliffs over which they pour that they seem like wisps of smoke, gentle as the floating clouds, though their voices fill the valley and make the rocks tremble. The mountains, too, along the eastern sky, and the domes in front of them, and the succession of smooth, rounded waves between, swelling higher, higher, with dark woods in their hollows, serene in massive, exuberant bulk and beauty, tend yet more to hide the grandeur of the Yosemite Temple and make it appear as a subdued, subordinate feature of the vast, harmonious landscape. Thus, every attempt to appreciate any one feature is beaten down by the overwhelming influence of all the others. And, as if this were not enough, in the sky arises another mountain range with topography as rugged and substantial looking as the one beneath it. Snowy peaks and domes and shadowy Yosemite valleys, another version of the snowy Sierra, a new creation heralded by a thunderstorm. How fiercely, devoutly wild is nature in the midst of her beauty-loving tenderness, painting lilies, watering them, caressing them with gentle hand, going from flower to flower like a gardener, while building rock mountains and cloud mountains full of lightning and rain. Gladly, we run for shelter beneath an overhanging cliff and examine the reassuring ferns and mosses, gentle love tokens growing in cracks and chinks, daisies too, and acacias, confiding wild children of light, too small to fear. To these, one's heart goes home, and the voices of the storm become gentle. Now the sun breaks forth and fragrant steam arises. The birds are out, singing on the edges of the groves. The west is flaming in gold and purple, ready for the ceremony of the sunset. And back I go to camp with my notes and pictures, the best of them printed in my mind as dreams. A fruitful day, without measured beginning or ending, a celestial eternity, a gift of good God. Wrote to my mother and a few friends, mountain hints to each. They seem as near as if within voice reach or touch. The deeper the solitude, the less the sense of loneliness, and the nearer our friends. Now bread and tea, fur bed, and good night to Carlo. A look at the sky lilies, and death sleep until the dawn of another Sierra tomorrow.